I'm here with David Townsend, the CEO of TownRock Energy from the UK. David, you're here with at the German Congress with a delegation from the UK. So maybe talk a little bit about why you're here, and then maybe talk a little bit about your company.
Yeah, well, it's great to see you, Alex. I think we've seen each other in lots of conferences around the world, and it's great to be here in Germany. It's the first time I've come to the German Geothermal Congress. John Gloyes from the National Geothermal Centre in the UK, I think, set up this partnership so that we could have the UK featured. And yesterday was a whole day of talks from people coming from the UK, mostly who have projects they're trying to develop. There was a lot of constructive conversation, and I think it's really helpful because when you take a lot of the movers and shakers out of their usual environment and put them in a place like in Frankfurt and in Germany where there's a lot more geothermal activity going on, it's very inspiring, and it helps you think a bit more outside the box and get some more maybe unblock some of the conversations. Yeah.
And with regards to what you're doing, how in the German context, is there certain things that you find intriguing that you kind of would take from UK to your own projects, or?
Yeah, I think Germany just sort of, from the outside perspective, just gets on with it. They know they need heat. They know geothermal is a good source of heat. They do that. They know that in some places they can get power. They do that. The government sees that this is a good opportunity, puts relatively good regulatory frameworks in place, puts some support in place. The banks look at this. The insurance companies look at this and go, "Hey, there's a cool industry here. Let's all invest some time in making this happen." And it's something which we've never seen happen in the UK, and which I just repeatedly want, to be able to take the blueprint that Germany's developed, add some of the good stuff from France and the Netherlands, and just transplant it into the UK. But yeah, that's easier said than done.
Mhm. I mean, you've now worked with TownRock for quite some years, kind of trying to kind of work in geothermal in UK. Can you kind of maybe give an update of what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so we've been around quite a while now. I set the company up 12 years ago. We are a consultancy. We've really worked on all types of geothermal because our whole mission is to find the commercially viable types of geothermal that can be developed, combining the right technologies for the nuances of the geology and the customer. Spent a lot more time trying to understand the customers for geothermal energy. And as a geologist, that's always been quite a long, steep learning curve, but I feel like we're really starting to crack it. We've had 4 projects that we've built now, all of them driven by customers who are very passionate to decarbonize and see how geothermal and pioneering a geothermal project that they own will enhance their brand, will enhance their marketing, will bring them more customers. And so they're able to see past the raw finances. And I think a lot of people looking at geothermal get a little stuck just by looking at the simple cash flow and comparing that to other areas that they can put money in. And there's a lot more nuance to it than that. It needs to really be understood by people putting money in. So very grateful for our clients. We're spending a lot of time and energy in mine water geothermal. Repurposing the abandoned flooded coal mines is a huge opportunity. It's a bit lower risk than deep geothermal. It's lower capex, and it works fantastic if you do sort of thermal energy storage. So you're doing a bit of heating and a bit of cooling and balancing that across different customers. So I see a lot of potential there. 42 projects in the pipeline right now in the UK, according to a recent report. But I'm really interested in what's happening in EGS. I'm watching Fervo in the US quite carefully, and Tim Lyons from Geothermal Wells in the UK is pushing really forward with a project in Durham to do an EGS power plant, which essentially will make money from the power, so it can give the heat away essentially for free to the local towns and cities. And I just think that, EGS is this very exciting technology that a lot of engineering, a lot of very bright people from the oil and gas industry are coming into this space now to try and figure it out. And I think they're cracking it quite quickly. So I think this is going to be a really big part of the geothermal energy mix in the near future.
In that context, we talk EGS, like particularly here in Germany, it was discussed here at the conference.
Yeah.
Is a bit of a public acceptance issue.
Yeah.
And I guess in UK, I think Ryan Law at some point talked about the frack off movement in the UK.
Yeah.
In the sense that he had to deal with in Cornwall.
Yeah.
How do you see that playing out in the UK? I mean, you have an oil sector, of course.
Yeah.
But of course, most of that has been offshore.
Yeah.
How does that
Yeah.
How would that be, or how would you think that one should address this in UK?
I think it's not an answer that any of us that are in our industry, especially if we have a good technical understanding, are going to be good at solving. I think we need a lot of help from marketing specialists who are able to help us communicate, and PR specialists who are able to find the right narrative to bring the customer or bring the whole general public and the political sphere along on that journey with us. Because yeah, the word fracking has a lot of negative energy behind it. And we use, of course, different words when we're talking about stimulating EGS reservoirs, creating a synthetic reservoir, safely controlled. It's engineered as in the name. I mean, we have a research project that we're working on with Heriot-Watt University and some partners across Europe called GeoGuard, which is looking at what are all the stimulation techniques that can be used. So, of course, hydraulic fracturing is an option, but there's electrical, there's chemical, there's a whole variety. And so evaluating all of those from a techno-economic perspective against different case studies across Europe and seeing, where they would bring a lot of benefit. And part of this research, there's a whole work package which a community engagement specialist is working on, which is how do we get the messaging right? How do we communicate to the public that we are going to stimulate, but it's completely safe and it's going to bring a lot of investment and jobs and lower cost energy into their community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So promoting the benefits better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and how is it going in the UK from the political perspective? Is there, I mean, there is more interest from what we've read and reported on, but is that translating in some concrete kind of action? Or
I think piecemeal is the right word to describe it in the UK. There are some people in government who are very enthralled by geothermal and want to help make it happen, but it's certainly not become. It's not even on the radar of the decision makers in more senior areas of government, and so the sort of slightly curious things happen. For example, there's a big push to decarbonize NHS hospitals with deep geothermal, but it's sort of been left to the hospitals to figure out how to fund those projects themselves or to negotiate long-term heat offtake agreements that underpin a fundraise for a developer. And this I can just see is completely stuck right now from the various companies that are trying to do this in procurement and contracting, and obviously the public sector are going to be very risk averse as well. But on the flip side, the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero have just last year or earlier this year awarded £35 million to the University of York to drill a 5-kilometer deep well, which is going to be probably starting drilled next year. And that has a lot of us scratching our heads because I think fantastic, we need some demonstrator projects, but how did that get picked, And out of all the great projects that are sort of as an option, University of York was a little bit of a surprise, I think, to a lot of us. Yeah.
Well, let's hope for the UK that things are picking up. I mean, for you, of course, as a business, but in general for the UK. And
yeah,
David,
it really is. The momentum is building really across the board. Decarbonization of heat is even more important than ever. Decoupling from gas prices is more important than ever. Heat network zoning is coming in. I could see how geothermal becomes a part of the zoning question when there's a good resource that's been identified. The British Geological Survey's done some great work. They published a viewer that aggregates all of the data relevant to geothermal across the UK and made that publicly available. And there are more and more politicians who are sort of taking notice. So, it's only going to get better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then all the best, David, and thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
No, thanks so much, Alex.